Yeah, hello, welcome all. So this is our first session on the Dream Maharashtra, and in first session we are talking with different entrepreneurs who will guide us or show the way how the Maharashtra can be taken on development path, and what can be the concept of Dream Maharashtra. So we have Ankush Tiwari, who is the head of engineering at Agria Mobility. This Agria Mobility is a global telecom company based out of California. Then a few more people will join us. Meanwhile, Rishi Agrawal ji is with us, who is entrepreneur again. He is a COO at Bluefin startup. Rishi ji was head in past with BNY Melon in Pune. He started BNY Melon in Pune, basically in India. So let me start with some first few questions one by one. So first question is for Ankuji. What are the basic issues being faced by Maharashtra today? Because as an entrepreneur, we will like to hear from you that what are the basic issues Maharashtra is facing today? Yeah, Ankuj.
Okay. Yes. So, some of the basic issues that Maharashtra faces today are going to be on the same lines as what country faces, right? So the prime one that all we know, and there's a huge amount of drumbeat that we heard during the past elections as well, has been the corruption issue, right? And Maharashtra being a state which kind of almost topping in there, right? So one of the most important issue that we face is corruption, and unfortunately, due to corruption, there are a lot of other side issues that come up, right? Now, be it governance, be it the slow growth of infrastructure, or be it that the conditions that we give out are not welcoming for businesses to grow, and also not only businesses, I would say, business is one part of it. Right, start at the root level. All of us know that farmers suicide is highest in Maharashtra. Now when we look at the land layout of Maharashtra, how it is today, and the kind of resource richfulness the soil here offers, still the 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 cry of the farmer in Maharashtra is the highest, and all of us know the suicide rates among the country, right? Maharashtra unfortunately is topping. So unfortunately we are topping in wrong areas, like say being having a very corruptly governed state, giving issues to multiple segments. Farmers being one of them. Education suffers, and we all know, right, how the educational institutes in Maharashtra are run, right? Pune being one of considered as the Oxford of the country. But I mean, I don't know whether we can still claim that whether it is Oxford of the country. From what it has moved from a quality educational place to a quantity educational place, right? So what is happening is, we are producing numbers. I mean, we produce, say, what, thousands of engineers, but out of them only a few hundreds are good, right? The other thing is, I would say, there are a lot of key policy decisions that should be made, and on whether it is on infrastructure, whether it is on some of the taxation structures, or we have been hearing about the toll issue, right? The whole thing is very extremely slowed down and not governed by only the growth aspects or keeping all the people in mind, right? So there are other motives which are taking more consideration when some of these decisions are being taken at the state level. So I'm removing some of these center specific things, but I would say, if I have to just highlight few, I would say corruption, infrastructure issues that we have a lot of policy formation issues, and then in fact the other last one I would highlight is law and order, right? I mean, in fact, we have been seeing a lot of issues with respect to law and order in the city. Pune being a very peaceful city, and in last couple of years we have had certain very bad instances even in a city like Pune. And every time you see, right, all the sites wherever there were instances, there was we were saying there's a video camera installed, but every time it was found to be faulty, right? So even taking decisions, they have to be taken the right way, and then accountability should be there for implementation. So the last one would be, I would say, accountability and implementations of policies.
Yeah, yeah, thanks, Ankuji. Let me go to Rishiji now. You are an entrepreneur. You just started your company 1 year back. So I would like to hear from you. What are the issues in setting up organization in Maharashtra? Because there is a lot of talk on government, whether government is business friendly or not. So that will be another question: is the government favorable to business, and how you see the tax structure basically? Because you will see LBT and all these things. A lot of discussion is happened. So youth will like to know from you what is the tax structure, and whether it is helping or there is some problem with that also.
Well, thank you, Praful. Thanks for having me over. I'm not sure if Maharashtra can be treated in isolation of the rest of the country. I think this is something which needs to be looked at a national level, and Maharashtra doesn't seem to be any different on that subject as far as setting up a new organization is concerned. So let me share with you one of the examples that I went through about 14 months ago when we were setting up our own company. So we were an American company, so we set up the entity back in the US, and we were going to set up the Indian entity right after that. My partners who set it up in the US, it literally took them 2.5 to 3 hours to set up the entire company, get all the relevant certifications, registrations done, and get going. The paperwork came to me, and it took me about 45 to 50 days to do the corresponding paperwork in India. Now, I'm not complaining here. I'm just giving you the scale as to how different and how difficult it is to set up a small company of a small startup. We ended up spending about 45 days dealing with various ministries and various entities, right from Ministry of Corporate Affairs and Registrar of Companies and the Shop Act and ESI and PF and import export codes and then PAN number and then correspondingly a lot of paperwork around opening up a bank account and service tax number, various filings. The first inward remittance that came in because it was an American company for 1 lakh rupees of capital. Because of the foreign exchange difference on that particular day, we got 1 lakh 1,046 rupees because of the foreign exchange play. And then it took me about 2 months to return that 1,046 rupees after having gone through 200 different filings and stuff like that. Long story short here, it's not easy to go set up a small company. You ideally would like to create an ecosystem where entrepreneurs feel like they can go try something out. Even if they were to go fail, at least the opportunity to try something out has to be there. If that becomes so difficult, I'm not sure how many people would actually want to go become an entrepreneur. So that's part one of your question. I hope that does answer some of that. The second thing is around the tax structure, right? So let's to look at the tax structure. Right now, the taxation in software is very, very hazy. I'm not sure how many of us on the Hangout today are familiar with this, but let's take service tax, VAT, LBT, and transfer pricing. So these are the four major areas which we encounter all the time. The rules are not very clear and straightforward. All the time there is this hazy area whether service tax is applicable or LBT is applicable or not, VAT is applicable or not. Just to give you an example, if you were to go and buy a CD or import a CD with a license, it attracts customs duty. But if you were to go download the same license of website, it attracts something else. If you were to go sell a software, again depends on whether it's a shrink wrap package software versus developed software, a combination of service tax and VAT is applicable. Now take service tax as an example. 12.36%, VAT is about 5%, LBT is about 3.5%, and if customs is also applicable, then another percent of that. A small startup which is trying to make its ends meet and is willing to go make a try is paying about 20-25% on these basic things, and you are not even in business. Forget setting up a small facility and getting some of that ecosystem. And by the way, it's a lot of litigation. It's full of litigation. You make a small mistake, you could be spending days and weeks trying to sort that area out. Look at issues around transfer pricing, right? There's no clarity around transfer pricing. All the time, companies are struggling to make sure that they are in compliance. Being an American company, all the time, transfer pricing continues to be an issue. Whether the margin should be 22% or 20% or 21% or 16%, what is an acceptable number? It's an area where discretion plays a vital role. Someone can disagree with you. Two different people coming from the same department may have two different views of the same situation. Now, as an entrepreneur, as a technology entrepreneur, I would much rather spend my time and my companies and my people's time, which is not too many, in trying to focus on technology and trying to win business and do a good job at product, service, quality, and development, rather than spending all my time trying to understand whether LBT versus service tax versus VAT versus customs is applicable or not, and making all those filings. So I think there's a long way to go, and we have to do a lot of good work in this area in trying to simplify the regimes. I'm not against taxation. All I'm saying is it needs to be very clear, cut and dry. Nobody should be able to read between the lines to figure out the meaning. We pay a lot of money to company secretaries, chartered accountants for various filings. And my point is, with this kind of an environment, you need to really earmark a lot of time and resources to get some of these compliances done.
Yeah, thanks, Rishiji. So let me welcome Vishwetji. Vishwetji is R&D lead at a company based out of Pune. This is a company which develop enterprise-grade mobile products. So my next question will be for Vishwetji. As Rishiji said, there is a lot of gap, and maybe this gap is used for there is no clarity, and then this gap is used for corruption basically. You are an entrepreneur, so I would like to know whether in Maharashtra corruption is affected you in your daily life, in career, and especially when it dealing with a business basically, how corruption is affecting you.
Hi. So yes, corruption, knowingly or unknowingly, we all are part of it. I don't know people who are living in Maharashtra who have kids. They have experienced it, giving donations to the school for child admission. It starts from there, is what I feel. It starts when I'm admitting my son to school. They ask me for building funds or whatever, and then I pay it easily, right? Then coming back to the technology and setting up a company and everything, one of the biggest factors which I have seen, because we have set up a company and we are directly uh, working as contractors with US companies to avoid sales taxes or whatever. One of the reasons why our US company is not ready to set up an Indian company, because last time they have suffered a lot when they got acquired. When a US startup gets acquired, a US Indian collaborative startup gets acquired, there are no clear rules defined, or there are no clear guidelines defined where this process can be accelerated, or their M&A, merger and acquisition company, can work with Indian government or set of CAs to get that acquisition in process. So that's the reason why my current CEO is afraid of setting up an Indian entity, because last time we set up a company called Zimbra, which got acquired by Yahoo, and that account is still running, by the way. They have still not closed the Indian entity account for various reasons, because of a lot of complexities and no clarity in terms of rules and regulations. And when it comes to corruption, we have seen while right from procurement of material which we needed to set up the company, like buying monitors in bulk, machines in bulk, and everything. The rates which we got are different. They say that, okay, sir, aapko pakka receipt chahiye, kacha receipt chahiye. Do you want all that kind of funda? Whether and knowingly or unknowingly, when I am getting same thing for a very cheap, as a common man, he tends to participate in that corruption. So that is another thing which I believe that needs to be streamlined. And because see, at the end of the day, if I'm buying a monitor, for example, if somebody selling it, the Dell company selling it for 20,000 rupees, a local shop is selling it for 16,000 rupees. He says that, okay, I'll give you warranty for 2 years, 3 years. Monitor ko kuch nahi hota hai, aap le lo. I'll give you kacha receipt. My CA then accepts that kacha receipt. He files returns. He said, kacha receipt, pakka receipt, I don't care, as long as you can prove your expenses. And that's where the circle is completed. And there is 3,000 rupees participation in corruption, which I did, right, by saving that money. And it's at this smaller level. That's where I feel that it's need to be attacked. And when we try and get these grassroots problems fixed, hopefully at a higher level, the problems will automatic, or the process will automatically be percolated. That's what I feel.
Thanks, Vishwajit, for joining and for giving the complete view of what is the corruption and how it is playing for business. So let me get back to Ankuji. Ankuji, your company is you are working now in Pune. So I have one question around Maharashtra cities basically. So like Bangalore is congested now, and Hyderabad is as IT hub is again collapsed. So why we think that Pune, Nagpur, Nashik did not pick up as a IT hub basically? Why we are not like a Pune, or maybe I would say rather than Pune, why Nagpur or Nashik like cities are not picking up on the IT wave? Is there any specific reason?
Okay. So on this one, I would say what the typical IT companies are looking for when they are trying to set up a shop, right? So one is that first thing they look at as infrastructure, right? So if I'm deciding a city, first thing I look at what infrastructure that city has to offer, and the primary ones there would be to check. The first one is what connectivity that place offers, right? First is airport and train, right? Second would be is setting up a business is commercially viable. In fact, you took a lot of names there, Pune, Nasik, and all. I would say you have to add Mumbai there as well, right? Mumbai is a commercial hub of the country, but when it comes to IT, I would say Mumbai is still not there, right? So the second important factor there is the commercial viability of setting up an IT shop, right? So where the factors like in Mumbai, I get a office space say in 200 rupees square feet or 300 rupees a square feet rental per month in what Pune offers me or what Nasik offers me, right? So that's the second one that people look at, the business viability when I'm choosing a city. Third one would be, does it give me resources, right? Is there enough resource pool if I'm setting up a shop and if I want to grow tomorrow? Is the city can sustain that growth? And when I just spoke about infrastructure, the things would come in, what's the power situation in that place and the other thing, all the other things around infrastructure would come in there, right? And also, are there any good government policies that are welcoming? I'll give you a very good example here, right? Qualcomm, we will know, right, is one of the pioneers in the silicon chipset manufacturers for mobile devices. When Qualcomm was trying to open up a shop, I used to work for Motorola at that time, and I'm talking probably 10 years or 12 years back. This is like 2003-4. They had two cities in mind, Pune and Hyderabad. Now, when I look at those two cities at that point of time in terms of what they offer in terms of infra, I would say they were comparable. What they were offering in terms of resources, they were comparable. But Qualcomm, when they were hiring people, they were saying, we'll hire you either for Pune and Hyderabad. Finally, they went to Hyderabad and set up a huge, huge shop. What made the difference there was policies that Mr. Chandrababu Naidu was offering that time, right? So that's another factor that comes in, that how welcoming a state government is to businesses. And then there's a thing like we look at poundful of a poundful penny wise kind of decision we take. But of course, the government policies come in a big way, right? So I would say the reason why other cities are not coming up, in fact, I would say Maharashtra being one of the the second largest state in the country, the rail network it offers is horrible. Though the first train ran between Thane and Thane and Pune, right?
Right.
Right. So still we are, I mean, if we have to go from here to Aurangabad by bus, we can reach in 4 hours. By train, I am really not sure. I think it takes like 10 hours to reach there by train, right?
Yeah.
So again, there's a lot of infrastructure issues, there are resources issues. So in terms of, and then the commercial viability issues, right? I mean, the real estate in Mumbai, Pune is crazy. And Nagpur, again, because of you need a very, very good airport. Pune still doesn't have it. Nagpur has, but I think still the international connectivity is not there. So again, all these challenges combined together still doesn't make other cities that attractive for spreading IT businesses today.
Yeah. Thanks, Ankuji. Let me get back to Vishwajit on the same. I will extend the same question. There is a talk of business viability. So, if I compare Maharashtra to other state or other places, even in a world, how Maharashtra fare actually? It's a very costly place, or it is like cheaper than other options?
No, Maharashtra is definitely not costly if you compare with other options. Definitely not costly than Hyderabad, not costly than Bangalore, not costly than Chennai for that matter. Infrastructure wise, yes, we still have a lot of issues to address. intercity connectivity, airport to city connectivity is one, and even intra-city. Intra-city, for example, Pune city is not organized in a manner where you have a separate residential area and a separate offices or MIDC kind of an area for IT. Yes, Hinjawadi is there, but for small offices, there the Hinjawadi, going to Hinjawadi is not a viable option. Now, so the city is not organized in a way where you have good connectivity. There are no metro trains. The BRT project is a mess. It's not happening. There are no bridges. Like you have a lot of bridges which allows you to bypass a lot of crowded areas or residential areas, which you see in Mumbai a lot. There is nothing like that in Pune. So yes, infrastructure also needs to mold itself into a way so that it can facilitate people to start offices or see. What I feel is if there are 50 small offices which come together, then one big commercial building can turn into a facility like in Jewadi, and then there can be good common amenities which they can maintain pretty well. Today, I don't see that happening. There are a lot of small commercial buildings which are not having a good infrastructure at all, and then you have to compromise or go for a residential place, get a bungalow, and then convert it into office and whatnot. That is one thing. Second thing is internet. We still have a lot of issues with internet. We still do not have good connectivity. Not everybody can afford a lease line. Of course, startup cannot afford a lease line because lease line rates are huge, especially when I compare lease line rates in Maharashtra and lease line rates in metros. They are very different. So internet infrastructure is also very poor, not a good connectivity. In some areas you might get some provider, in other areas you won't. So that is also a big issue. And in terms of talent, what I feel is Pune is more and more becoming a services hub. It has become a services hub. Now we see a lot of startups coming out of Pune, but over past many years, Pune was looked at as a services hub. Maybe because of lack of government policies, not many product companies have opened their offices in Pune. So there is no product culture as such in Pune, and then there were decades, right? The decades of Infosys, TCS, and Wipro's ruling Pune IT. Uh, what I would say situation. So that's the reason why we do not see a lot of pro product company policies from government, as well as the talent pool is also in, more or less they're getting easy jobs. Infosys is hiring 50,000 every year. TCS is hiring 60,000 every year. So they are getting easy jobs in these services companies, and then they don't care, right? Because you get a job and you start earning money as soon as you are out of college. Then you don't care about innovation. You don't care about all these things. So these are various issues which I feel. So when I want to hire an expert, I often end up hiring somebody from Bangalore or somebody from Hyderabad. And but yes, that is a fact. So when also I had to hire people from Hyderabad who wants to come back to Pune and then work in Pune.
I think we lost connection with Vishweji, but I think Vishweji covered most of the points. And even I will take that talent crunch or the skill labor issue later on with Ankushji. Before that, let me get back to Rishiji. Rishiji, we discussed like Mumbai, Pune, Nashik, and Nagpur. But then Maharashtra was like a top state some like maybe 10 years before, or even right now Maharashtra is doing good in a lot of fields. But if you see, our development is restricted to few 4 5 cities, and we are not able to penetrate or not able to go deeper. So, can you like give us a overall like maybe entrepreneur type of view why this is happening and that Maharashtra development is limited to few cities?
See, I think it's not specific to Maharashtra. I think this is a pan-India problem. If you look at the number of cities that you can count on, in order to talk about really development, there are only a handful of cities, and the rate at which the diaspora is coming into those cities is just unmanageable. I mean, places like Delhi, have been growing at such a significant rate. Forget Delhi, I mean, places like Mumbai, Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, Pune in this case, all of these are starting to witness a huge change in the rate at which people are coming in. And this is primarily happening because most of the job creation is happening in these places. And I think Ankush spoke about a number of factors. I think he covered almost all the factors around why job creation is happening. If you get to the root cause of these problems, right, it's a catch-22, a chicken and an egg kind of a situation. Wherever job creation happens, the talent from across the country moves there. And why does job creation happens here? Because the minimum acceptable level of infrastructure that you need to become commercially viable and do businesses in these places. So let's take an example of transportation. I think Ankush covered it very well. We are not very well connected, be it air or even railways in some cases. So you're trying to do business with an American client. I'm talking about myself, right? They want to come visit you. Now, they are making a 2-day trip. They land in Mumbai because Pune has very limited international connectivity. They land in Mumbai, take a 4-hour, 5-hour car ride to Pune. It takes longer than they would like, but it's not unmanageable. And they transact their business and go back. Now imagine if I had to do that in a Kolhapur or a Sholapur or even in Nashik. You know, the kind of highway and expressway connectivity to those places. I don't think an international traveler would want to experience the Indian trains or Indian railway system the way it is. So all you're left with is basically road transportation, very limited air connectivity. Now take a look at vendors, right? Now that was one situation. If I have to set up an IT company in Kolhapur, I do need suppliers of hardware. I need suppliers of software, networking equipment, cabling equipment, racks. If I have to start buying all that, I'm not sure how many decent quality providers of this equipment are available in some of those cities. So I end up looking at those providers from Pune. This is just the equipment. What about services? So if I have a network problem and if I need to get someone to go correct a port or do some relaying of cables or anything like that, how many options do I have in some of those cities? UPS, right? Having a decent quality UPS where someone can give you a pretty decent guarantee of someone responding to a problem. Some of these places have limited offerings. Now, those are all, you know, to me, root cause of why people gravitate towards setting up their offices in larger cities, Pune being one of them or Mumbai being another. And if you don't go and create a systemic effort on creating that infrastructure in those cities, this problem is not going to go away. Even the SEZ policy that the government has, most of these SEZ end up becoming a part of the city itself. The original concept of special economic zone was to go and create a critical mass of infrastructure in an area which was away from the core developed areas, such that a company could go set up its presence there and do a good job with the ecosystem that was required to become successful. If you look at the way the SEZs have happened, most of the IT SEZs are within 10, 15, 20 kilometers of the Pune radius. How will you ever create an ecosystem away from Pune or Mumbai in this case, where you go and set up a SEZ in Kolhapur, to Ankush's point earlier, provide that government policy, boost to the policy, create the right housing, create the right environment where a decent quality of life can be provided to an IT associate or candidate. If someone from Bangalore has to move to Kolhapur, how likely is he or she to move there? The schooling, the education, you know, the basic quality of life, which includes the malls and theaters and restaurants and hotels and transportation, connectivity to their hometowns. Because some of these people who come in, they are not from Maharashtra alone. They are coming from different parts of the country, if not the world. They need to live in a place which is centrally connected, so that they can go and they can visit their family and their families can visit them in a seamless manner. Now, some of the other places that we were talking about, let's ask ourselves this question: how easy or how difficult it is for someone who's coming from outside, a talented person who wants to work in Maharashtra and contribute to the economy and ecosystem here? How easy or difficult it is for them to live in some of those places? So I think it's a loaded question. It's a multi-dimensional question. Doesn't have a single straightforward answer. But I think Ankush did cover a lot of points around the core infrastructural issues, which actually result in a concentrated or heterogeneous job creation, resulting in poor development of the rest of the state.
I think I
Yeah.
would just like to add, you know, what Rishi was just saying. is that now we have this challenge, right? And we want as a country to grow, and and we need to make sure that the tier 2, tier 3 cities are growing. Now who can step up and who can help in solving this problem? Let's be very pragmatic. Businesses houses are not going to come and overnight say, okay, I will go and set up a shop in a village and convert that overnight. In fact, I'll give you some very good examples that where we as a country and as a state has to really think, right? Some of the policies that we today talk about, whether it is STPI, SEZ, and all, right? We as a country, let's be fair to ourselves. We are still like a 70-year young country. If I not even a 70-year young country today, right? So if we are being fair to ourselves, we started in the IT domain primarily as being a services hub, providing very good intelligent engineers at a cost which is 1/10 of to the Western world, right? That was the DNA, and that is where we started. And if you look at all the policies which got formed, right, whether it was STP or whether it is SEZ, STPI is kind of is kind of almost gone. We have to really ask ourselves, the industry grew, the country grew. I mean, it has done wonders to our country, right? Today, if I look at the mobile penetration, it's phenomenal. And hats off to whoever, I mean, the government when it opened this up. But where we are lacking, this industry in last 15 years has evolved rapidly and changed rapidly, right? Right from being just a service provider, today we are being a value provider. Today we are having successful product companies in our country, right? But let me ask a very, very simple question to all of us here is, we see Facebook setting up a shop starting from a garage in US and capturing the whole world, right? They're good product companies. Most of them we hear from the Valley, we hear from the West, right? Have we heard of bigger IT companies in India which have done that, which are non-services? Product company. Big question, right? Flipkart, current valuation is 5 billion. But Flipkart, trust me, is always going to be an Indian company and working out of India mostly. In fact, if you'll observe closely today, Flipkart is also changing its structures. Why Flipkart is changing its headquarters structures and all is something that the policy makers have to think, right? It's very difficult to set up a company in India and try to have global ambitions and still make sure that you're headquartered out of India. It's not easy for a product company today. And we really have to think and think that what policies were formed, how have we evolved, have we really evolved the policies in a similar way is question number one. Now, what are the other ways to solve this problem, right? I would say the best positioned people are the state, right? What is happening today is we are seeing huge amount of investment happening in e-governance. And let me give you an example. I have done a lot of business with Chinese government, and we should really learn from them. We are going to do 100 smart cities, right? Let's take an example of that. 100 smart cities. I'm sure we don't have 100 big cities in our country today. We can count on our fingertips where we do multiple businesses. How China is looking at this, I met few mayors and all there. What they do is they're very welcoming to industries. Okay, there's a smart city project. This is going to be outsourced to, say, 3 different companies, and companies of the scale of Microsoft, Cisco, and IBM I'm talking about. They call them for a meeting. They say, okay, I'm making a smart city, and smart city minimum is few $100 million of investment, right? And all these investments government is doing and giving business to these companies. Now, one is you create a smart city and then you have to run a smart city as well, right? And smart city includes lot of technology, lots and lots of technology. Now, when we are doing that, as a state, can we think of at that point of time, there has to be an impending event for businesses to move there. There should be value for businesses to, move to tier 2 cities. I would say we need to think smart and think that can we create some solutions around that? If we are really building 100 smart cities, is there a real way that I can create some more businesses? Because I need to run smart cities once they are up. And see that whether I can create real investments coming from those powerhouses, to whom in any case I'll pay money for setting up all those smart cities. So I think it's more about thinking how we have evolved, whether our policies evolved in that way, and then thinking smartly that government are going to move to e-governance models. Can I use that to my advantage even when I'm spending money with companies there?
Yeah, thanks Ankushji. I think this replies is a surprise for me, and I was supposed to skip some question, but I will take those questions. As per my knowledge, Maharashtra is the highest engineer producing state. Maharashtra has the most number of seats, and then when Vishwajit talk, he said that there is a talent crunch. So I would like to know from again Ankushji, how you find the skilled labor in Maharashtra, and what is the problem there? If because I thought that's not the problem, but now I am got enlightened that that's the problem actually basically. So I would like to know from Ankushji, how is the skilled labor market in Maharashtra, and is there any problem, and how can we improve even on those problem if there is any
I would say
problem?
the first way we should look at skill level in the country, right? As I told you, as a country, we have evolved as a service company, and now we have got very good live examples, which Rishi is one of them, right? Who has moved from US and setting up a company in India and having ambitions of setting up big companies in India, right? So first thing is, as a country level, earlier we were producing a lot of great talent, but we were not able to keep the talent in the country. Now, if we take it one level down, Maharashtra is producing great talent, right? But are we able to keep that talent in Maharashtra? Is one question. I think what Vishwesh, when he was mentioning, he meant was there are a lot of people when he is hiring, when he's looking for Hyderabad, a lot of people who are probably wanting to come back to Pune, who moved out from say Maharashtra, he is tapping into those talent. It's very difficult for him probably to tap into talent which doesn't want to come back to or which is not local from Maharashtra. Now, having said that, I would not like to answer it as it's whether Maharashtra is giving enough talent or Maharashtra is able to suck in enough talent, right? I would like to see is that are we producing quality people in Maharashtra, right? We have got you said right, we are producing maximum number of engineers, but today if you ask me, I would say probably 20% of those engineers are useful. Rest 80% probably not, right? So it is more about what is the quality of engineers we are producing rather than the quantity of engineers, right? If the quality is right, we will be able to utilize them better, and then of course after that we need to ensure that we have enough job opportunities in the state to keep them with us, right? The problem with a lot of talent is that they are also very fickle in terms of when they choose things where they want to go. So to answer your question, I think the talent is there. Can we create enough opportunities to keep that talent is something which we have to think of. And can we ensure, okay, we are the largest producer of engineers, can we claim that we are producing quality engineers? And that can only happen once we have better things. I mean, we know how engineering colleges get opened. It's kind of no-brainer today how to open an engineering college, but how to run and produce quality engineers, I do not know how many of us have really figured out in the state.
Yeah. Thanks again for another perspective on this talent crunch issue. So I will now we are running this like a hangout because we are running launch one project called Dream Maharashtra, and we want to hear from entrepreneurs. Like we will come up with some vision document, and we want to hear from entrepreneurs and everybody what they want to see as a Dream Maharashtra. So I will come to Vishwej ji to know what do you think is important to drive change towards Dream Maharashtra, because there are a lot of problems in state, society, and everywhere. But what we can drive so that we can move towards that Dream Maharashtra which everyone is expecting.
Yeah. So my shortest definition, which I see for Dream Maharashtra, is that we have seen that the generation which we are in, which we are raising, kids who are currently in teens or youth. When we talk about youth, all of them are passive consumers of everything. Passive consumers of technology, passive consumers of freedom, passive consumers of all the facilities. What I want my Dream Maharashtra to do is become an active contributor. Move from passive consumers to become an active contributor in technology, in manufacturing, in automobile, in social issues, in education, and everything. So that is the shortest definition which I can give.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah, thanks. So let me take the same question to Rishiji also, because Rishiji moved from US to India, and you are starting up startup. You have a lot of like dreams for your own career and even for this state or cities actually. So can you give the perspective? How can we move towards that fulfilling those dreams, or what can be those steps which we can take, and we will see. Okay, we are moving on a correct path basically.
Yeah, sure. I mean, great question. Thanks for pulling me in. I mean, let me take a step back here, right? So if you look at the growth model world over, right, you would find some trends. So, and this is something that I've been doing for a while. Whenever I like to do something or I want to dabble into something, I look at what others have done in the past in order to become very successful at that. So if we want to create a dream or a vision document for, say, Maharashtra, let us look at what are the factors or success factors which the world has seen and tried and tested and experimented with, which has worked very well. So take a few examples, right? A country like United States has a history, documented history of less than 300 years. I'm sure all of us would agree more or less with that number. In 300 years, from all the way to being nothing to being a superpower in the world, they have come a long way. And if you look at single most important reason for that, it was their ability to attract the most talented people from across the world. And that is not just particular about United States. Any country which has to become successful has to be able to create an ecosystem which attracts talent from other parts of the world. So if Maharashtra has to become well, or if Maharashtra has to achieve a dream status, I think Maharashtra has to create that ecosystem where people from across the country, if not the rest of the world, feel that they belong here and they have the right ecosystem, which includes everything from a good quality of life to great job opportunities to everything else that makes it acquire that status. So in my view, number one thing that Maharashtra has to do is to create that ecosystem to attract the best and the brightest talent in the world in order to bring it here and then have the ability to retain it. I think Vishwesh hit the nail on the head when he said that happy-go-lucky culture is starting to become prevalent, not just in Maharashtra but the rest of the country as well. Thousands of graduates, they get easy jobs. In final year, companies would come, give them easy offers. There is really no hunger, no zeal, no desire to go stretch themselves at extra yard and go pick up those skills that they don't have. Today, you would be surprised to know Ankush gave a number of 20% employability. I actually bring it down to 5% for a company like mine. The reason is, I don't want to sound condescending here. I'm just being very practical here. If you look at the zeal to learn, it is literally missing. The next generation IT is changing, and companies like Infosys and others are also starting to change in line with that. In order for you to make any significant progress in that area, you really need that zeal to learn, to pick up new skills. What you knew 5 years ago versus what you need to know now versus what you need to know a year from now are dramatically different. Take example of Nokia. 10 years ago when or 13, 14 years ago when I graduated from IIM Calcutta, after that I bought my first Nokia phone which looked like a brick. That was the size of that phone. And there was no company other than Nokia which even existed from a cell phone perspective. 14 years or 13 years later, we literally know a $300 billion valued company got sold to Microsoft for less than $7 billion and is literally getting erased from the face of the planet. This transformation has taken less than 10 years to happen. What I'm trying to say here is what got us here, or what got Nokia where it was versus what is required to become successful today are two different skills. The talent that we are getting so far in the country is not really employable. The zeal, the confidence, the ability to go learn, to apply themselves, to think hard, to innovate is not there. And I'm not trying to make a generic statement. Time and again, I've seen that a very small portion of our talent is really employable on those parameters. Ability to learn in the talent is critical one. So going back to where I had started, the first and the foremost issue that Maharashtra needs to resolve is how do we create an ecosystem where talent can be attracted from all over the world, first, and second, retained once they get attracted. To wrap up this statement, I would like to quote one line from Jim Collins' book, right? So there is a great author called Jim Collins. He wrote a book called Good to Great. And in that book, he mentioned great companies are those which actually get the right people on the bus and let those people decide where to take the bus, rather than first making a decision on where to take the bus and then getting people on board. So to me, go create the ecosystem where we can attract the right people on the bus and have them decide where to take this bus from.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think you put 2 points. One is the pull talent and retain those talent. So what we can do like the Y4D team, I will come back to both of them, all of you, okay, that what will be your suggestion for us. But let me go take the same question to Ankuji, that how can we create a dream Maharashtra? What will be the steps basically? At least at high level can be like some steps which we can take and we can take the state ahead basically. Ankuji, I think you are in mute.
Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would start, what is the basic problem? Rishi highlighted, what are we seeing and what are the challenges in terms of the quality of people we are getting. But let me highlight the basic problem for all these, what I feel. I feel the basic problem is the education system. What is happening is we as a country, I think this is a country-wide problem. Education in our country as a profession is taken by chance, not by choice. It's very few people who are doing it by choice. So the challenge is, I mean, we hear about, after graduation, what are you going to do? Okay, I am preparing for a Stanford, I'm preparing for a MIT, I'm preparing for a Wharton, right? We are seeing that. When I'm going to West, or when I'm going to say Asia Pac, or when I'm going to say any other country, am I hearing, am I preparing for an IIT? Am I preparing for an IIM? Why is that not happening, right? So the challenge is, I mean, we are saying we'll open 30 more IITs, 50 more AIMs, whatever, I mean, that those are good things to say. But the realistic problem is, do I have enough ammunition and firepower to provide quality education to people who are going to go there? There's no point in calling a college IIT if I can't even get, good professors there to do that, right? So primarily, I would say one of the key things for Dream Maharashtra to think would be, how do I fix our education system? How do I ensure that, in this technology world today, I mean, we are sitting at different places and we are, very well connected. Why can't I ensure that a very good teacher in Pune can deliver a quality education to a school which is there in remote Maharashtra or anywhere in the country, right? So if my dream Maharashtra would be to see that people, irrespective of the place they are in, irrespective of what is their paying capacity, irrespective of their caste, irrespective of their religion, do they have access to quality education? And this should be something with we as youngsters should see that as a minimal we are able to guarantee to our next generation. And I think that's the primary issue. Once we fix that, and once we're ensuring that the youth can stand on their own legs, all the other problems that we are seeing today, be it corruption, be it the other things that come out of it, once we ensure we are fixing the education issue, I'm sure we'll be fixing a lot of corner issues that are going to come up. So my dream Maharashtra would be ensuring quality education, irrespective of place, caste, religion, to all the people.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Ankush. So let me now go back to this like a purpose of Hangout and why we are like Y4D team. So we thought that there are issues and we all know, and as a youth we should stand and do something basically. But when we started, we thought these issues are very simple. In my word, like maybe corruption or two, three I can count. But when I talking to you guys today, our team is realizing that the issues are not so simple, and there are other perspectives also, and maybe there are widespread basically. So I will like to hear maybe last question for all of you, that what as a we team, youth team, what we can do so that we can handle some of these situations, or we can give the proper inputs or like in format of vision document to government. So let me start with Vishwaji. So Vishwaji, what will be your input for us as a team?
Sorry, I missed you actually. Got disconnected. I switched from 3G to Wi-Fi, so I missed you.
Okay, okay, no problem. So we are like a youth team, basically Y4D. It's a youth for development, youth for democracy. And when we started, we thought we know that all the problems, and we thought that let's come up with something. Maybe it's a vision document or some agenda, and let's push for Maharashtra so that we can take a Maharashtra development path. But when we today we're talking with you all of you people, we come to know that there are a lot of different perspective basically. So if there are some suggestion for us basically to team, ki how we can push this agenda, or what can be perspective we can learn basically, so that agenda pushing is a very effective.
Yeah, one thing we definitely need to work on, the points which we should work in agenda is betterment of education. So betterment of, and as I mentioned that even though we are opening lots of IITs, IIMs, and I'm sure Maharashtra will also have additional IIT, maybe an IIM or whatever. But do we have right kind of people who are teaching at them? Can we do foreign collaboration? Can we, instead of people going to Stanford and study, can we have Stanford guys coming to Maharashtra and teaching in our colleges and provide same quality of education? Because that is definitely a possibility, right? Today, just to give you an example, at our in our company, we have learned a lot many things by watching free Stanford videos which are available on iTunes or whatever, right? So we have been doing those lectures. We are making a good use of technology when we do Coursera courses. So can colleges have facility of enrolling students in these courses? So technology and the quality of education needs to be focused, and that would automatically result in, I believe, producing a good talent. And then it's the responsibility of entrepreneurs like us who are running companies or who wish to run companies to make sure that that talent is retained by providing them appropriate kind of work and work culture.
Yeah, thanks, Vishwajit. I think your point was that we focus on betterment of education rather than going for this like a big words like corruption kind of or talent crunch kind of.
Correct.
So let me, yeah. So let me go now to Rishiji also. So Rishiji, what will be your suggestion to us? Like, how can we? Because we want to set up some agenda, but we know problem, but maybe we don't know in depth how to set up that agenda. So what will be your suggestion for us?
So I would take two views on this, right? One is a macro view, and then the second is a micro view. So when I talk about the macro view, I would want to see how government can give more open market sort of a situation where it only frames the larger framework, and then within that framework companies can operate rather than every single thing completely managed down to the T. So that is one where at a macro level I would like government to help create that ecosystem where it can attract companies by way of the right legislations and the right framework to provide that open business opportunities, to make businesses more and more viable, easy to deal with, investor friendly, and so on. So this is more at a 100,000 feet level, a motherhood and apple pie kind of thing. Will take a couple of decades to get done, but that is one area where I would like to start seeing some directional changes. The second is the micro view, right? Micro view is once a company gets started, for it to become successful, what does it require? So it requires a very high quality delivery and sustenance of that delivery so that it can continue to win the trust of its existing clients and also go build relationships and bring new business. And towards that, I think Ankush and Vishesh both spoke about the talent situation in the country and how that talent needs some amount of grooming. And the root cause was more or less the education system. I would just want to add one point to that, which is how do we create the right attitude which includes their professional ethic? How do we mold the professional ethic? It is not the question of IQ. I think as a country, as a generation, we do a pretty good job of having decent quality from an IQ perspective. It's not about people's ability to understand, comprehend, or what they normally call aptitude in English. I don't think aptitude in general is an issue. I think attitude is an issue. And to me, how do we mold collectively the attitude of talent in this generation? I see a very casual attitude towards everything. The professional ethic is missing. People walk into the office later, they start looking at the clock first, right? 5-day work week. People don't like to come, even when they are young, just came out of college, a lot of learning to be done, a lot of ground to cover before they can become productive. Very poor work ethic in general. The hunger, the desire to become someone, be something, do high quality work, take pride in what they do. I think some of those parameters are basically missing. I don't think government can do much about it, but in academia, in colleges, and as an ecosystem, I think there is enough room to think through what can we do as a nation to develop or groom or mold that attitude amongst people so that whatever they do, there is certain degree of seriousness. And I think where government can step in is raise the bar. So not give engineering degrees literally like at the drop of a hat, you can go write some exam, get whatever percentages you would like, get papers in the open market. My own home state, is currently grappling with a Vyapam Ghotala goes back to the idea of corruption. But the whole idea is, how do we get government to raise the bar around who gets the degree, or what does it take for you to get a degree? In most engineering colleges, people just get by. I mean, just to attend classes is like a big deal. Forget exerting themselves and doing some creative projects and writing papers that gets published. I'm not saying people shouldn't have fun. I mean, college education needs to have a blend of fun and pleasure along with high-end education. But how do you do attitude cultivation and grooming is where I would like to see some real directional changes. And I think if we are able to mold the attitude of this generation, chances are the talent crutch situation or quality of delivery situation that we typically end up having a backseat on will start to change. Now, years ago, right, in 2002 or 3, NASSCOM used to say, come to India for cost and stay for quality, right? This was a statement that I think Pramod Bhasin used to make a long time ago. And very soon that changed to come to India for quality and stay for innovation. And I think all of our speakers today raised that point as to where is this innovation, right? Even Flipkart, people like to call it innovation. Amazon did that like years ago. We are like a second fiddle. We are literally copying what Amazon did years ago. There is really no question of innovation. How many innovative products in IT or otherwise have we seen come out of this place, which have really created multi-bagger for the investors? So to me, it is imperative that we start changing that happy-go-lucky culture of just get by, chalta hai, hota hai, dekh lenge, ho jayega, to this, we will make this country a force to reckon with. This will become the best in class. And I think government can play a role, or the governance can play a role in making sure that people just don't get by through the education system. The bar is raised and people are asked or made to work hard to get their degrees that currently I think are available on platter.
Yeah. So if I want to summarize, Rishij's main motto was, when we speak about rights, like government should do something, then there are duties also, and youth should mold that way. Maybe attitude-wise or learning curve-wise, we should mold ourselves basically. So Ankuj, this is the last question. So I want to ask you, what as an organization like Y4D or team we should do so that we can push this agenda of development and we can make Maharashtra better.
So one of the important things that I think Y4D should seriously look at as its charter is, in a country, we see a lot of polarization in our country, and first thing that can easily get polarized is the youth, right? So as a Y4D, as an organization, you can really see that thinking about realistic things versus populist things, right? We need to ensure that the youth of the country is directed in the right direction. A misdirected youth could be a killer, right? That's one. I would say as a group you should take as a charter. Other thing is, as a citizen of the country, I do not know, and we all are talking, if you honestly ask me, I do not know about my rights at a lot of places. So as a Y4D organization, can you guys take up and ensure that the youth of this country is actually being made aware of its right under different situations, right? Whether it is right to education, whether it is, right to what happens if a traffic cop catches you, what is your legal right to behave and what's the right kind of things, right? Those are small things that, because of probably I do not know things, I try a shorter route. But as a Y4D charter, I would see that, can you make sure that from the youth level, can we ensure that citizens are being made aware of their rights, right? Just to make sure that when we grow, the next generation comes up, they are more aware, they know what they want to do, and that way we are kind of cleaning up the bigger mess also, which we kind of hide under one umbrella corruption. We hide actually 100 other problems. I do corruption because I probably do not know when I have to move from Pune to Delhi what happens to my car number, right?
Yeah.
So, so I would say these two things, and then education, of course, you guys should proliferate that. It's important. How do you and help in right policy formations? If the reach is there, make sure that the right consensus could be formed. And rather than populist policies, there are right policies formed. And the other thing is, policy formation is just one thing, which doesn't make anything according to me, unless there is a clear path of implementation for those policies and accountability done. I do not know whether Y4D can play in that role or not, but again, those are the bigger problems that we see.
Yeah, so Ankuj, let me tell you that when we started with Y4D, this is a real problem that people even don't know own rights also. Like voting is the one of the case, and many people don't know how like I can register for voting, can I vote without a card, and we are playing some role in that also. So I think we are end of the hangout. Thanks, guys, everyone, for giving your time, and we will certainly come back again when we create our vision document, and we would like to take your inputs in that vision document on your entrepreneur or your on your fields basically.
Yeah, thank you, Praful. Thanks for inviting us. I wish Y4D and the whole team good luck in all their future endeavors.
Yeah, thanks, Ankuj.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thanks.
Praful.
Yeah, thanks.